All right. Hello, my name is Jolie DeCleva, and I welcome you. I am a health educator, and I am passionate about keeping people well, and that's what I do. I have taught lots of people how to use essential oils and other natural health care, and I'm a health coach that likes to help people make long-term health changes to improve their life. And today I'm going to talk about stress, which is a really big deal. We all need to get a handle on managing our stress. So we'll start with just this idea. My outline here is that we are all, the question really is are we doomed to live lives of stress? And the answer clearly is no, we're not doomed. That stress is a choice and has a lot to do with perception. Now, what I'm talking about is our crazy, busy lifestyle choices. I'm not talking about people who are going through an extreme trauma. So those people, what I'm saying today might not totally apply. And blessings to you, grace to you. I'm more talking about the chronic stress that we have throughout our lives day to day. All right, so we're going to cover what's happening in our bodies when we get stressed and why we need to live lives with less stress. And then lastly, I'm going to do a real basic breathing exercise and a basic meditation exercise. So here we go. First of all, we are not doomed, right? I had a wonderful professor back in my undergrad at Colorado State University who taught me that it's not the stressor that causes the stress. It's actually our reaction. It's our response to the stressor that causes our body to have that fight or flight reaction. And maybe you guys already knew this, but for me, this was monumental information because I kind of wore stress as a badge of honor. It showed that I cared. It was even a competition, like I'm more stressed than you. It felt like if I wasn't stressed, I wasn't being responsible about the situation. And the idea that a stressor could happen and I don't have to respond to it in a negative way, I don't have to get all worked up and crazy and harried about it, was brand new to me. So that has to do with perception of stress, right? The other thing is I had this parenting revelation that I have this one child who it seems like things go right for him. And almost to the point where some of the other kids wonder, it's not fair. Everything seems to go right for that one kid. But upon reflection, it dawned on me that actually he's had some hard things happen, but his perception of what is going right is large. So anything that happens in this realm of his life, the flex that happens, anything that in this range is good. And if it's outside that range, okay, bummer, that wasn't so good. But because he has such a large range of life is going well for me, he seems to roll through life. He's flexible. And another one of my children at this juncture has a very narrow range of life is going well for me. And so there's a lot of disappointment and complaining and lack of contentment because his perception is so small. Does that make sense? So that's one of our goals, is to expand that so that we're not stressed when things don't go our way, right? That things can go our way in a lot of different ways and we can have a great attitude. The next thing I want to talk about is locus of control. And this is an idea that I learned way back in psychology class that I'm revisiting. And basically locus of control is a psychological term that means do we believe that our actions are dictating our outcome, or do we believe that the outcome is happening to us? So you can either have an internal locus of control, and those are the people who feel like their behaviors, their actions actually make things happen, and they have more choice and decision in what happens. And then there's the external locus of control that feel like things are coming at them, and here's another problem, here's another thing to deal with, and they feel less control in their life. So someone with an internal locus of control would say, hey, I need to learn how to do that better. And yeah, that was a bummer, that didn't work out. I need to work a little harder. And someone with an external locus of control will say, oh, nobody wants my product because there's so many people that are buying, that are already selling that, or bad things are constantly happening to me, right? So see the difference? And what they found is that people who have an internal locus of control have less stress. And people who have an external locus of control are real prone to anxiety, which is super interesting. And there was an article in Psychology Today, 2017 article called Locus of Control. And they had a research study of 7,500 people that they looked at, and they showed that people with an internal locus of control, they were less likely to be overweight, they were less likely to describe their health as poor, and they were less likely to describe their lives as stressful. And as a health educator, that's really interesting to me, because I'm always questioning, why can some people make behavior changes and why do some people struggle so much to change? And it might have a lot to do with that locus of control. Now we're going to move a little bit towards what is stress doing to our body and what's happening in our body. And I want to pause here and think about how incredible our bodies are, right? I mean, our bodies are amazing. We are made up of 50 trillion cells. And we have these biological pathways in our body that nutrient A plus nutrient B makes this chemical reaction and is necessary for this chemical reaction. And it's this complex, amazing system. And one of those amazing pieces of our body is our central nervous system and our ability to respond to emergencies. And our fight or flight response to emergencies is incredible. And when we have a really scary thing happen, and true story, we had a bear try to break into our front door. I wasn't home, but if I were home, that would have been a true emergency, right? So if the bear is breaking in and you're in the house and you're scared, then all the blood flow goes to your extremities and away from your gut and your unnecessary organs. And that gives you the strength and the ability to deal with the situation and fight or flee. However, our bodies were never intended for us to stay for a long period of time in this fight or flight realm. Okay, so that lies the problem, is that our bodies today are staying there. When we stay in fight or flight, we're more prone to headaches, anxiety, overeating, muscle tension, poor sleeping habits, restlessness, you name it. Basically, this list goes on, leading to major ailments and things like heart disease and cancer. All of these things are related to our body being in this fight or flight for just way too long. So what's happening there is that we're releasing cortisol and adrenaline, and those substances are harmful for our body long term. So let's talk about this idea of quality of life, because you might say, but we're living longer. Well, actually, we may be living longer, but the period of time that we're healthy and well is shrinking. And the period of time that we're sick is getting bigger. And that is not what we want. And so there's a quote by Libby, what's her name here? I'm going to come across it here in just a second. Libby Weaver, Dr. Libby Weaver, and she says, are we living too short and dying too long? Right? That's not what we want. We want to live long. We want to feel amazing most of our life, not just part of the time. So let's talk about the central nervous system and how this stress response is happening in our body, and then what we can do to settle it down and have our body respond differently. So first of all, the central nervous system is made up of the brain, the spinal cord, and all of the nerves that come off of there. And that can be broken down into the autonomic nervous system. And these are all the things that happen automatically. For example, our heart beating, we don't have to tell it to beat. If we cut ourselves, we don't have to tell our body to heal it. Our fingernails grow without us asking them to, right? And the autonomic nervous system can be broken down into the sympathetic and the parasympathetic. So let's start with the sympathetic nervous system. The sympathetic nervous system is that fight or flight, that cortisol release, that adrenaline release. And when you have high circulating amounts of adrenaline, it's going to affect your ability to focus, and it's really going to affect your sleep, which makes sense, because if there's a real emergency, then you want to be semi-alert, right? You don't want to fall into a deep sleep because that bear might come back and I might need to fight it off. So this is an incredible protective mechanism of our body, but we're staying in that system too long. Quick story, I had a child who wet the bed. So we were given a gift of a pee-pee alarm where you stick the little device on the pull-up, and when they go to the bathroom, a very loud alarm goes off. I stayed in parasympathetic nervous system all night because I'm waiting for this alarm. It was so loud and so disturbing. There's no way you could actually fall asleep, right? And that's kind of how we live our lives during the day. We're like always waiting for the next thing, right? We're hyped up and in this adrenaline and cortisol, and we're amped up. We're never letting our body come back down to balance. All right. The other thing is that when we're in that sympathetic nervous system for long periods of time, you'll start noticing that your skin is not looking so good, and your nails are starting to get brittle, and even your hair. And that's because those are considered non-essential, and so the blood flow is being diverted from there. Also, IBS, or irritable bowel syndrome, is a huge epidemic in the United States. And this is happening because we're always in we're always in the sympathetic mode of stress, and it's diverting the blood flow away from our guts. And so we're getting cramping, and we're not having that blood flow that we need to fully digest our food. And there's a lot of pain and discomfort, and then it can turn into disease, if not addressed. Caffeine is another thing that we need to pay attention to, because caffeine actually increases our adrenaline. And a little bit of that feels pretty good. We feel energized and we feel like we can focus and get something done. But the reality is that staying in that adrenaline zone is not great for your body long term. And then we have another coffee as we sort of go down, and then we have another, and we sort of keep our body hyped up, and we never get out of that fight or flight mode. Let's talk about the parasympathetic in contrast. The parasympathetic is the calm, peaceful zone. So this is where you build and restore and rest. This is where we should be aiming to be spending most of our time and energy, is in this calm and feel good and amazing. Many of us deal with weight issues, and at every given moment, our body is deciding what fuel source it's going to utilize. And if you're in this parasympathetic area of calm and rest and relaxation and restore, then our body can burn fat. But when we're in the sympathetic nervous system that's all hyped up in fight or flight, there is no way our fat cells are going to release any fat, because we're saving it for the emergency, or maybe a famine or whatever might come up. And so we tend to burn glucose. And if we don't learn how to be in the parasympathetic more, we're going to get belly fat that's just going to gather around our stomachs, and it really turns into a major health issue for us. So the question is, what makes the body decide, right, when it's going to burn fat and when it's going to burn glucose? And the answer is really that it depends on if we're staying in sympathetic or we're staying in parasympathetic nervous system. So what can we do? We need to give our sympathetic nervous system a break, right? We need to figure out how to get out of that crazy stress zone all the time. So one thing we can do is we can work on perception and, stop when we have a stressor, and remember that we have a choice on how we're going to respond to that. We also can try to expand our zone of things are going great, things are going right. And I read an excellent book recently. It's actually the third time I've read it. I love this life-changing book by Gay Hendricks called The Big Leap. And he talks about feeling good all the time, like not accepting feeling bad. And he talks about how we self-sabotage because we're not used to feeling good all the time. And so we have to practice, and we have to deal with some of these self-sabotaging thoughts that come into our mind, and we need to figure out how to expand in our joy and our ability to feel amazing. It's a great book, and I highly recommend it. Other great authors for mindset switch and just kind of learning how to think differently about your life and your locus of control are Rachel Hollis, Mel Robbins, and Jen Sincero. So those are books you can check out if you're interested in just learning a little bit more about mindset. A really important thing that you can do to help your body deal with stress is eat a highly nutritious diet. So remember that nutrient A plus nutrient B makes this chemical reaction in our body. If we don't have those nutrients, we might not be sleeping properly, or our hormones might not be regulated, or some other major functions are just not doing what they're supposed to be doing because we didn't fulfill that requirement by getting it in our food. If you are really confused about what good eating and good nutrition is, you're not alone. It is very confusing. There's so many diets out there, so many different ways to eat that work for this person, that works for this person. And, that this is really a challenge to figure out what works for you. And that's what I do as a health coach. So if you need a little help there, contact me and we can talk about possibility of working together. The next thing we can do is we can consume less caffeine to help our body stay out of that adrenaline, high cortisol, fight or flight zone. I love essential oils, so I know that certain essential oils help calm me and relax me, and I can wear them as perfume, and that's one way that I keep myself from getting into that stress cycle. And then there's some herbal medicines, getting really good sleep, things like Tai Chi and restorative yoga, Pilates. These are all been proven to help to get people to stay in that parasympathetic, at least reach down into that parasympathetic. And once you kind of learn how to be there, because we've almost forgotten how to be in that space. Most of our lives we're stressed out and we're relaxed this little piece. but we want to be in the parasympathetic, in this restorative, peaceful zone most of the time, and we want to save the fight or flight for when there's a true emergency, right? That's what our body's designed to do. So I'm going to teach a couple things real quickly here. I'm going to teach how to breathe, do a diaphragmatic breath, where you put your hands on your stomach, and when you're taking a deep breath in, you're actually expanding your belly out. And then when you're exhaling a little bit longer than the amount of time that you inhaled. Okay, so let's try that. Put your hands on your belly, and we're going to take a deep breath in. It doesn't matter if you do it from your nose or your mouth. Okay, here we go. Try it again. Easy, right? So there's another easy breathing technique that can really help take you down in the moment if you're having a super stressful moment, and it's called 4-7-8 breathing. And so basically we're going to take a big diaphragmatic breath or soft belly breath and hold it for 7 seconds, and then breathe it out for 8 seconds. Okay, so big diaphragmatic breath, 4 seconds, hold it, 7 seconds, breathe out, 8 seconds. Put your hands on your tummy. Let's do it. Good job. So you would do that a series of 4, and you feel really good, relaxed, and amazing. And hopefully you've been able to shift from, that fight or flight zone to being in this calm, parasympathetic response. Meditation is also a great habit to take on. And if you're like me, I was a little hesitant. The word meditation seemed a little out there, a little strange. And so as a Christian, I imagine this light coming down, which I was told to imagine a light coming down, right? So I imagine this light coming down is Jesus. It's the light from heaven. It's peace, it's joy, it's love. And so when I close my eyes to meditate, I have a big ray of light coming down into my head, kind of swirling around in my body, filling my limbs. And then when I exhale, I get rid of anything negative. And so you can have a mantra while you're meditating. You might just say one word over and over again, like love. And you think about love, and you let the light come down and swirl around. And as you exhale, you let out any negative thoughts, maybe like, deserve love, or, any negative thought that comes in, you push it out, and then you let the light, this healing, beautiful energy come through and sort of sweep out and pick up anything negative, and then exhale it. So it's really super relaxing. I sit with my hands up, just receiving, and I close my eyes, and I take those big diaphragmatic breaths, and I let the light come down, swirl around, and exhale. And I do this. In the beginning, I could only do it for 1 minute, and I've been working my way up. And it's a great idea to try to work your way up to 10, 15 minutes a day, and just train your body how to be in that rest and restore space. And as far as that diaphragmatic breathing, honestly, if we could learn to breathe that way 24/7, that would be amazing, because that type of breath is associated with that parasympathetic, calming stress response. So there are some tools that you can work on. To conclude, what we talked about today is that we are not doomed to live these crazy, stressful lives, right? A lot of our stress is perception, and emails, and someone stopping by your house unexpectedly or something. These do not have to throw us off. They do not have to cause the stress response. We can make a choice to be relaxed and calm and respond without that stress response happening. And then we talked about how stress is kind of happening in our body, how our sympathetic fight or flight, releasing cortisol and adrenaline is affecting our sleep and our energy and kind of making us miserable. And we talked about how the parasympathetic is calming and restorative. And then we gave 2 clues or exercises to work on the deep breathing, diaphragmatic breathing, the 4-7-8 breathing, and then the basic meditation. By the way, I wanted to say just a little bit more about meditation and why it's so amazing. Sue Newfield's definition of meditation is being in the eye of the storm, but not blown away by the storm. And I love this picture. So I'm going to leave you with this picture of, yes, life is storming all around you. All these crazy things are happening. And yet you can be in the middle, in the eye of the storm, calm, relaxed, doing your diaphragmatic breathing with a great attitude. And you don't have to be blown away. Maybe your hair is going to get a little bit of wind in it, but you don't have to have the response, the physical response. That's not showing that you're responsible or you're paying attention or it's not a good thing to be in that sympathetic nervous system response. So let's picture ourselves calm and relaxed, and I wish you all the best. We'll see you next month for my monthly webinar. You have a great night.